Welcome, guys. This is not a live commentary. This is just me talking about philosophy and life and everything while you watch me plant melons. Anyone who watches this, congratulations. You've just killed some time. Basically, what we're going to be talking about today is Plato's ideas on love, because I think that they're really interesting, and they go against the societal views of his time, and they go against the societal views of modern day. He believed that you should let your lover change you, is his quote. He believed that you could, two people who love each other are supposed to make each other the best version of themselves, and I think that in its own sense is beautiful. People have this idea that you've got to find the one that you were always meant to be with, and that they're already perfectly made for you by God or something like that, but that's not at all the case. That's not at all the case, and Plato understood that. He understood that love is two people pushing each other to be the version of each other that they love the most, the best version of themselves, and I think that's a unique view. I think that's a view that more people should share, and I think that that's a really good way to do it. But maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm insane, but I think that that's a good way of looking at it. If you know the story of Icarus, Icarus is another Greek story, or another Greek hero. He, his father was a great craftsman. So he could make wings and he could fly. When they wanted to escape the island, they made wings and they flew. But his father warned him, the wings are made of wax. You can't fly too close to the sun. And I think this is where common misconception with this story is, because many people think that it's a story about how, oh, if you get close to the sun, you're gonna burn alive. But in actuality, he only got close enough for the wax on his wings to melt. And I think that's interesting, because the moral of the story is don't overestimate what you can do, but everyone overestimates what he actually did. And that's where I think psychology comes into play. That's where I think that, like, people, if you believe that you can do more, then people will believe that you did more, even if that's not the story that's being told. And I think that's really interesting. I think that's a really unique outlook, is that maybe confidence projects what people expect from you on some level. Like, people think, oh, he's being cocky, but in actuality that does raise their expectations and that does raise their belief. But that's what I think is interesting. Anyway, about the footage that you're watching me plant melons, because that's something that everyone wants to see. I'm not bad at water MLGs. If you see, like, early on in the video, I'm going to fail a few water MLGs, but the reason for that, I can explain. The reason for that is, because, you see, water MLGs are harder on uneven ground. And that's normal. When you see me do water MLGs on flat ground later on in the video, you're going to see that I can actually do them, but just not off of that tower because the terrain is so uneven and I keep placing it on higher ground or something. But, anyway, I'm just planting melons. At one point, I'm pretty sure I do the ultimate bed clutch, where you're flying by a bed with a trident and then you get into the bed. I think that was pretty epic. That was like the coolest stunt ever, and I'm now a legend. Worship me as God. Subscribe when you see that. I don't know when it is, because again, this is basically just a podcast, but you know what? This is a big melon farm I'm doing to avoid thinking about things, and you're gonna all see it. And, yeah, it's a hobby, planting melons. You know, it's monotonous, but I personally enjoy monotonous tasks. I enjoy the repetition. I enjoy knowing what happens next. It's part of who I am. And maybe that makes me insane, maybe that makes me crazy, but I just like knowing what happens next and what the next step is. I've got like an hour and a half to fill by talking, so I don't know what to say other than that. I guess I could talk about... You know what? I'm gonna get political. Chocolate ice cream is better than vanilla ice cream. There, I finally said it. I finally said what needs to be said. People need to learn. People need to learn that chocolate ice cream is the best ice cream. That's just a fact. And I'm gonna get even more political. Down with the government. Governments are bad. There, I said it. I said it. Governments are bad. Uh, the farm gets pretty huge at some point in the video, and I do a lot of cuts, but I spent so long grinding materials for this farm, like getting glowstone is just the most nightmarish thing ever in 1.16, because ghasts, they just spawn so frequently. They spawn so frequently and I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. They're just everywhere. It's just insane. But anyway, uh, I guess I should talk a bit about life. Life is a burning pile of garbage, but anyway, okay, moving on. Moving swiftly on. uh, so, back to Plato. Plato believed that, he believed that actually, I'm not sure. He believed that you should put love into objects. That was one of his beliefs, I think. And I think that's pretty unique, but that's a story for another day. He believed that in your mind there existed a perfect example of any given object. And I think that is an interesting concept. Like, there's a perfect example of every object. I forget which philosopher it was that questioned him on this, but first he asked, was there a perfect idea of that cup over there? And then Plato said yes, and called him out for choosing something as random or as arbitrary as a cup. But then Plato was shocked to find that, and I believe Pewds actually talked about this. PewDiePie talked about this. He asked, "What about the space in the cup?" And this stuck Plato, because can there be a perfect example of the absence of anything? Can there be a perfect idea of nothing? Is that a thing that can exist in the human mind? I often wonder. I think so. I definitely think so. I think that there can be a perfect example of nothing. I just don't know what that perfect example would be. I honestly don't. But everyone has their own idea of what's perfect, and everyone has their own idea of that. And of course, there's my family shouting in the background. 1 second, I'm gonna mute. Another thing I hate is recording, because now I've got to edit those two parts together, because the second I start recording, my family's just like, I'm just gonna shout and barge into your room and just all around ruin your plans. But that's fine. That's fine. It seems like it's just automatic though, you know? Like, I've done one video with voice and I had to do 6 takes on it. And that is just crazy. That is just insane. Like, in the second that I'm not recording, it's like everything's just quiet all day. It's great. Anyway, I really want to fill more time than this, but I think that it's an interesting idea. Like, can there exist a perfect example of the absence of anything? I want to hear your thoughts on that for sure. If you got 8 minutes into the video, then make sure to comment down below whether you think that's so or not. I'd like to also talk about the existence of the black hole. I think that that's an interesting concept. Basically, a gravitational singularity is at the center of every black hole, and the black hole itself is just the gravity around the gravitational singularity. It's a really interesting concept, and it's been proven. It's been proven time and time again that they exist. And I think that it's interesting because it's a gravitational singularity is a single point of infinite mass within our universe. And a few years ago, they said that the one in the constellation Orion, or in the Orion sector or whatever, it was reaching critical mass, and I think that's an interesting thing as well. I think that, like, wow, so we're all gonna die. That's alright, honestly. I don't know, life's been pretty alright. It's been same old thing over and over again. History repeats itself. getting strung along and obliterated, getting torn apart from inside my own mind being. But you know what, that's something for another day. That's something for another day, and I don't want to talk about it. And that's why I'm doing this, because I don't have to think about things. I just have to talk, and I just have to plant melons. Melons aren't the best food source in Minecraft, but they're honestly a good food source in Minecraft, especially if you're playing like factions or you're playing a survival server. The reason that they're so good is because they're infinitely replenishable. That means that you can you can craft a melon into a melon seed, you can plant the melon, and you never have to replant that melon ever again. You just wait for it to grow, you just go AFK, wait for it to grow, and then bam, you get instant melons. You can immediately continue your travels again until you find more water and you need more food, and you replant it over and over again. It's the most farmable food in the game. And, well, it was, but now there's berries. But berries are a different thing altogether, and I don't know how I feel about them. Like, they're definitely good, but you can't farm them AFK. You can't. You can farm them semi-AFK, you can farm them AFK with an auto-clicker, but you can't farm them fully AFK, and I don't like that. I don't like that, but that's just me. I find that life is confusing, and, you know, girls are obviously confusing, that's a given, but I don't know how to feel about certain things, but that's why I'm doing this again. That's why I'm doing this. But it's fine. Everything is fine. Oh, and by the way, if you got this far, remember to like and subscribe, please. I don't know what else to talk about. I guess I could talk about Socrates and how he was a great philosopher. He starred in all of Plato's stories as the main protagonist. He invented the Socratical conversation. He didn't write anything down. He was a friend and teacher to Plato. And, yeah, he was a pretty smart guy. And I'd also like to talk about Thomas Edison and how he stole a bunch of ideas, and he apparently stole the idea for the light bulb, but that's a common misconception. He didn't actually steal the idea for the light bulb. He went into business partners with the original guy who made the light bulb. They were partners. They weren't, like, ripping off of each other or anything like that. They tried to sue each other at first, but then they realized, hey, we can work together. And that's what they did, and I think that's really interesting. I think that that's a really good way to look at it, but at the same time, nobody knows who that other guy is. Nobody. So I guess in that sense, Edison did take all the credit. But you know what? You can't win them all. You can't win them all. Something I used to play a lot. I used to play a lot of Pokemon games. Like, Pokemon Black version 2. That was probably the best Pokemon game that I've played. It was, because there was just so much content. Like, you look at Pokemon Sun and Moon, there's hardly any content. Most of the, like, in Pokemon Black 2, you could go into all of the buildings, you could go into all the houses, you could go into all the doors. You look at Pokemon Sun and Moon, there's more alternate dimensions you can visit than doors you can enter, and that's just ridiculous. That's just insane. You can't just, like, throw in extra dimensions and call it content. That's not how that works. Like, even... Like, I often say that Pokemon Sun and Moon, and then Pokemon Sword and Shield had even less content. It was like, yeah, Pokemon Sword and Shield's pretty good for a Pokemon fan game, probably. I'd definitely say that, because it just had no post-league content. It had, like, 2 legendaries you can catch, and, it was just not a great game. Like, I know that, supposedly they were working on another game at the same time, but that's not an excuse. Like, you have a standard you need to be held to when you've got a game that big. You can't just say, oh, it's got better graphics, and we reused all the animations. And, something that I don't like about the Fire-type starter, I forget its name at the moment, but all of the attack animations are kicks, right? And that's fine. Like, Tackle is a kick, Flame Charge is a kick. And then you get to the move Double Kick, and it's not a kick, it's just him, like, with no animation, just hopping in place. Like, it's got the kick in the name, and it's the one attack that's not a kick. What is this? It's just crazy. It's just like, why? Why couldn't you just use that same animation twice? It's literally his only animation. Why? But that's just a thing though, honestly. That's just a thing. You can't like worry about that too much because there are bigger problems in the world today than Pokemon games. No, there aren't. There are no bigger problems in the world today than Pokemon games. Out of here. Like what? You're gonna worry about global warming or poverty or world hunger? Out of here. Out of here. We need to worry about making better Pokemon games. We need to add some kind of incentive to Pokemon games. I think that's the moral of every Greek story, They're like, if Pokemon ever screws up, give them hell. Because that's an important part of life, That's an important part of life. You can't go 3 days without playing Pokemon games. You can't do that. I mean, I do all the time, actually, all the time now. But you know what? That's fine because I've ascended past Pokemon games. Basically, what I think that the story of who Icarus was that you can't always believe in what you're capable of. Sometimes you're not going to be able to do something, and that's okay. But I also believe that the story of Icarus, like many people believe that he either burnt to death or that he plummeted to the ground, but in actuality he drowned. And another piece of advice for Icarus was actually that you shouldn't fly too low, because you shouldn't fly too close to the ocean, because wax and water don't mix. So I think that the moral of the story isn't just don't overestimate yourself, it's also don't underestimate yourself. It's also don't be too cautious. You've got to take some risk. You've got to live life in the middle. You've got to take any risk that's worth the risk. That's my philosophy. Take any risk that's worth the risk. And you know what? If it's worth the risk, then you take it. But believe me, being close to the sun is not... I think that Icarus was also obsessed with fire. I think that's a thing that was his thing. So I guess don't be an arsonist. That might be the moral of the story, Maybe it's just been translated so many times. Who knows? Who knows? But I don't think that's the moral of the story, because it has nothing to do with fire, but, maybe, perhaps it does. Perhaps it does. I'd also like to talk a bit about, how I would describe life, because I'd describe my ideal life as monotony, where I already know everything that's going to happen in my day. Because that way, I don't need that variety in my life. I don't need that. Because people say, oh, you shouldn't do this because it's bad for you, but in actuality, I don't care if it's bad for me. If I want to do something, I'm gonna do it. And if that means living life monotonously, then that's what I'm gonna do. I don't, I like knowing what happens next more than I like my own sanity. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I want what's bad for me, but we won't talk about that. Honestly, this is just you guys watching a block game while I ramble for 30 minutes probably is what it'll wind up being. Hopefully I can push it that far, but I don't think any of you have made it this far in the video, but if you have, make sure to comment that you did, because I don't know. And maybe you want to see more videos like this, maybe you want to see more commentaries like this. I've got a cousin who's really into planes. He is obsessed with planes, and he knows everything about planes. And I could listen to him ramble about planes for hours and hours, and how there are all the different models of planes and all the different wingspans. I don't get what he's saying at the time, but I like hearing him ramble about that, and maybe you guys are the same way. He's 5 years old, but he knows everything about planes. It's crazy. I swear, if he wasn't obsessed with planes, he'd probably figure out a way to take over the world or something. But you know what? That's fine, because I'm gonna overthrow the government one day. I'm kidding, I'm kidding, I love the government. Taxes, I don't hate the government. Don't come to my house, CIA. Oh god, I haven't even uploaded and I can hear them. That's amazing. But you know what? That's fine. Something I used to play on. I used to play on my Leapfrog. I'd play a game about shooting socks at people for some reason. That was a thing for a little while. I don't know. I think that was pretty amusing, and there were like math games and stuff on it. Uh, you know what I really miss? I really miss Flash Player. Like, I didn't think I would because it gave Google a virus and I was mad about that, but then I actually did miss Flash Player. Like, I miss playing on Ancon Arcade. If anyone ever played on Ancon Arcade, like at school. Like, when I was in elementary, I'd play on that all the time. I'd just play like Mega Miner, and now it's just gone. Now it's just gone. Forever. It's like no more Flash Player for you. Nope. No more playing games on crappy PCs for you. But you know, it's fine. We originally tried to do a duo commentary where it was like a podcast, but then it didn't work out because Xbox parties don't pick up Xbox video does not pick up Xbox party chat for whatever reason. I know they should, but Microsoft's entire quality control team is like a single chimp. It's fine though. You know what? It's fine though. I've been watching a lot of Technoblade videos. I can do an impression of Technoblade pretty well. Welcome guys to another episode